What's a subtle sign that someone had a rough childhood? Someone who rarely shares what happens at home or talk about their family. From personal experience, they always have a defense about what they're doing and why they're doing it lined up. I was verbally abused and mocked a lot as a teen. It hurt me a lot because it didn't matter if I did something right or wrong, I'd get yelled at for it. So I learned to have an excuse prepared just in case I have to answer for what I'm doing. Even in my adult life, I feel like I'm always thinking to myself ways to justify what I'm up to. Even if it's something as benign as why I put a dish away where I did. No one ever asks about the mundane stuff I do, but I always feel like I have to be ready to defend myself. It really sucks. I shouldn't have to justify my existence. Edit. Thanks so much everyone. I didn't check this post until today. I'm touched to know I'm not alone. I remember going to summer camp as a kid and meeting Milo. Milo was big on attention seeking and validation, and would take food from the cafeteria back to his bunk. Like eggs and toast. I remember thinking he was just weird. But I think looking back and knowing what I know now, he was probably being neglected at home. Thin as a rail and probably malnourished. So he wanted as much food as he could get, and just wanted someone to acknowledge him. Pretty sad stuff. Insanely independent. They've learned not to trust anyone to help them, so do everything themselves. My sister-in-law adopted 3 siblings who are completely self-sustainable at a very young age. When they were visiting, I noticed a lot. If I gave anything to the oldest boy, he would pass it off to the youngest sister. Then I'd give him another and it went to the middle sister. Then I'd give him another and he'd finally keep it for himself. I asked if they wanted water. He said, yes. And I asked if the girls wanted water too. Oh. We can all share this one. Obviously I gave them all water. But that one hit me pretty hard. He knew their eating schedules and would nag my sister-in-law. Offered to make them mac and cheese or noodles or whatever we have laying around. Promised to clean up after. He was 12 years old. When normal kids play video games, they're glued. This kid was constantly checking over his shoulder to make sure everyone was safe, and if he felt one of his sisters was up to no good, he would put the controller down even if it meant dying or losing his progress in the game. To elaborate on up to no good, what the oldest brother considered bad behavior was pretty innocuous. There were several instances of things I consider normal childish behavior that he would regularly put a stop to. The most outstanding one was being too loud. It wouldn't even be yelling or screaming. Just typical 5-year-old make-believe noises that would cause him to run over and tell the little one to keep it down. They apologize habitually, compulsively, and for everything, even for things that have nothing to do with them. I used to involuntarily flinch when someone around me moved or gestured quickly. My parents were the masters of lightning-quick punches that came with no warning. Ends up ingrained in you that fast movements equals get ready for a punch. Haphophobia, or the fear of being touched, is definitely one of them. Flinching at loud noises or quick movements. Wanting to be at work and doing good all the time. Inconsistent hobby practice, i.e., drawing, but only sometimes drawing, and then dismissing what you drew as not good enough. When things get tense, they move and breathe very silently and are hyper-aware of everything that is happening and everyone else's actions. I find that they also read people very well, but still have poor judgment when it comes to close relationships. From the horse's mouth. 1. People-pleasing behaviors. Class clown, always agrees. 2. Overcompensating with laughter during conversation, in an attempt to appease others. 3. Self-isolating, stops contacting friends for seemingly no reason, due to feelings of inferiority, worthlessness. 4. No motivation to make anything of themselves, believing they would only fail anyway. 5. Allows themselves to be bullied, usually hangs out with dates abusive people. 6. Conspiracy theorist. Can't live without a sense of impending doom, will unconsciously find one. 7. Extremely nervous when doing new things in front of others. 8. So mature for their age. Equals didn't get to be a kid teen. 9. Total inability to accept compliments. 10. No, or very few distant, friends as an adult. 11. Barely any memory of childhood. 12. No happy stories of childhood. 13. Extremely negative self-talk. Having the ability to function as their own parent at a young age. Talking like an adult at a young age. Anything else that shows they had to grow up fast. Edit. Thank you to everyone who upvoted and for the awards. To everyone else who wants to split hairs over talking like an adult. Please stop explaining your interpretation of this phrase. People who have seen it know what I'm talking about. It's great if you are raising your kid to speak properly or understand adult topics. Obviously, I'm not referring to such a situation. Also, the question is, what's a subtle sign that someone had a rough childhood? Not. What's an obvious sign of abuse? Watch their table manners. Meals are forced contact time in bad households and it can easily show. Some examples are becoming less talkative or withdrawn during meals. They realize their elbow is on the table and they jerk it away quickly. Or something innocuous like a sneeze at the table causes undue shame or embarrassment. Conversely, someone who grew up without parental guidance can also develop odd eating habits. In the case of a coworker of mine, they collect the condiments near them. She would pull the ketchup bottle out of the little rack on the table, use it, and then keep it by her plate instead of putting it back. I asked if she was done with it, and she said, "Oh, sorry. I ate a lot of meals alone growing up." Turns out she grew up with a single mom who worked 2 jobs. And she was used to nobody being there to pass things. Can't figure out whether or not to permanently cut off contact with shitty parents. Or who go back and forth. Cutting off and trying again. And cutting off and trying again. Even considering it means your childhood was X shitty. And if you want to but can't do it, it probably means your childhood was X times shittier than that. To erode your sense of self and healthy boundaries to the point where you know what you have to do, but have been brainwashed by your oppressors to the point where you can't bring yourself to do it. Constant analysis of non-verbal cues. I spent my childhood trying to read tiny signals that my abusers sent, that were imperceptible to most people, but big red flags to me. The problem comes when you assume that these signals apply to all people. Not just the assholes. I'm triggered by things that my gentle and loving partner does. Because my abusers sighed that way. Or tapped his hand that way. Or got that glint in his eye. My partner is just trying to exist. And I read into everything that he unconsciously does. It's hard for me to retrain my mind. But I'm working on it with a licensed counselor. I've spent nearly 4 decades of my life in flight or fight. It's good to be emerging from that mode. The first lesson we learn in childhood is, how much am I worth? Our caregivers are the first to reflect this worth to us, from when we are infants and toddlers. If we cry, will someone come to us? If we fall down, will someone pick us up? To when we are kids and teenagers. Do our caretakers choose to spend time with us? Do we get help with schoolwork, friend drama? There is an important balance here. As kids, we want to be taught that we are equally important as everyone else. Some kids are taught they are less important. And as adults, they may have a hard time asking for help. They think they are bothering someone when they have a problem. They may also prioritize the needs of others based on an underlying belief that other people are more important. Some kids are taught that they're more important than others, and therefore treat others poorly and have trouble learning empathy. They try to justify, in their own minds, why they are better, which can lead to some narcissistic type thinking behavior. Edit. Oh hey, I got a silver. Edit again. And a gold. I am unsure as to what to do here. Because on one hand, I want to say thank you. But on the other hand, sometimes people make fun of people who say thank you. Reddit's weird. But thank you anyway, since this got some traction. And because I think it's a good self-check for all of us. Here are the second and third lessons we learn in childhood. Second lesson. Can I make effective changes in my life? Basically learning independence, tying shoes, getting a job, resolving conflicts, etc. We want a healthy balance here. A feeling of, for the most part one got this. But sometimes I need help. Kids who are neglected sometimes feel they can only rely on themselves. Kids who had their problems solved by over-involved caregivers often don't trust themselves as adults. Or never learned how to struggle in healthy ways. Third lesson. Is the world a safe place? Again, balance is key here. We want to learn how to take realistic precautions to protect ourselves from the normal dangers of living. We don't want to get tipped into thinking, the world is terrible and I can't do anything to keep myself safe. Nor do we want to think that nothing bad will ever happen to us. Being very calm and collected in serious, emergency situations. Having to deal with stressful stuff all my life has made me very capable in tense situations. This could go the complete opposite way too, by the way, just my experience. Many of my friends have me listed as their emergency contacts instead of their parents because they're like, I know that you can actually help instead of just flip out. My childhood wasn't tough in the my parents hated me, treated me badly sense. But they are just basically children. Completely unreliable. Unable to plan. Spiteful. In the way teens are. I had to take care of everything, so now I'm just good at keeping it together. Good people don't always make good parents.